G'day everyone out there in YouTube land. It's Anthony here again, finally. I've got this this Bowler AG SX92 70.7cc chainsaw, as you already know if you've seen my other videos. Not a 92. Anyway, I'm going to do some mods to it today. I'm going to change the cylinder from the standard 50mm to a big bore 52mm. So I've got a new cylinder and a new piston for it, and I'll just go through that. I don't exactly know what I'm doing. I've just done a bit of research and I'll see how I go, and if it works, happy days, but if not, we'll just give it a go and see what happens. So what I'm going to do first up anyway, I've already just given it a quick clean, and I'm going to check the squish of the existing one, how it is now. Actually I already have checked it, I know what it is, but I'm going to pull it apart. I'm going to do a base gasket delete, and I'm going to recheck the squish on this cylinder just so I know what it is, because I might decide to modify it later on. I just want to know where I'm at and how much I can afford to take off it. So I'll run through that quickly, how you check the squish. And when I've got this new 52mm cylinder, I got that from Pharmatech, and I didn't buy a kit. I bought a separate piston from another mob here in Australia. I think it was, can't remember the name of the company now anyway, but it's a Taxum piston, 52mm. Now hopefully it's all been done to a spec and it should still fit correctly and not crash into the top of the cylinder, but we'll check all that out. Now one thing before I get too carried away, I've seen on YouTube some of these aftermarket cylinders can be out of whack. You know, all this stuff is pretty much made to a cost, and sometimes they're not right. So what you've got to do, you've got to make sure that this base gasket area is running square to the cylinder. If that's running out of whack sideways, the piston is going to be forcing against the side of the cylinder, and I've seen a case where it destroyed a guy's chainsaw, destroyed his crank and everything. So you've got to make sure that's right before you just throw it on and see how it goes. Now I have checked this one at work. I put it up on the lathe, I clocked up the cylinder, sorry, and checked the face that it was square. It was only about 200ths out, which is less than 1 thou in the old language. So I think that's probably pretty good. Should be within their tolerance, and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's get to it. So to check the squish on this thing, if you're wondering what the squish is, it's the distance between the piston at top dead center and the top of the cylinder. The amount of gap you've got. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe this light. There's a flat area at the top of the cylinder. It's the squish is where how close the piston comes to the top of the cylinder there. So to check that, you just get your piece of solder. It's easiest, I removed the starter on it already. You just get your solder, you poke it in there to the edge of the cylinder. Where is it? Come up. And you see it squash your solder. And then you just measure that where you've squashed it. I measured it using my mic. I've already checked this one out. I know this one has a squish value of 1.16 millimeters. So that's, what's that? I don't know what that is in thou off the top of my head, but anyway, I think the allowable size, minimum size after your gasket delete would be around about 20 thou, which is around about 1/2 mil. So if it's like this is way over that, but when I do a gasket delete, that'll drop it down a bit. But if you go too close, if you decide to do a gasket delete, you don't want to crash the cylinder. Anyway, let's pull this thing apart. So first thing I do is Don't know how that thing comes off. Thought they might have been a bit tighter, but oh. Well, what I'll do is remove this compression release valve thing. Oh, it's all assembled, so I've got something to lever against. Just loosen that off. What else I need to take off? Now this saw there's no problem with it, it's running good. I've got it running the maximum RPM, no load. I'm running it around 13,000 RPM, maybe just under 12.9. I'm just going off the Husqvarna specs for this because it is a clone, and I think they've got a maximum for this model in the 372 XP. I think it's 13,500 RPM maximum. So I'm not going to run it flat out. Come off without these taken out. forget to drain the fuel, folks. Right, I'm back, folks. I just had to stop the camera for a moment there while I had the fuel gun. I couldn't juggle everything. Stop the drain the fuel out after that, and I've just removed the muffler. And I'm about to take this cylinder off now, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with this one. Right, now there. Now when you're doing these, I have discovered this in my investigations. There's should be an arrow on the top of this piston, I believe. There's one little marking there. It's very hard to see. Let's see if we can move this light a bit. There's a little arrow just there pointing towards the exhaust, and the pins which locate the rings, there's one there at the top there. Where's the other one at? Okay, the other one's over the side here. There's one there and one over here. The reason I just wanted to look at that was because on the new piston, I don't really know how much it really matters, so long as they don't interfere with the ports, I suppose. Yeah, this one's slightly different. It's got the arrow marking, which goes supposedly to the exhaust, but the two pins on this one are at the back here. So slightly different. I think so long as the pins aren't, I don't know if they make any difference at all. Anyway, I'll put the arrow to the exhaust again. That's what they've instructed. Anyway, so let's get this gasket off. I might just stop the camera again, give this a clean, and don't want to bore you with all the crap. Okay, folks, I'm back again. I gave it a quick clean, removed all the gasket, and I've just tightened up the cylinder back on again so I can check this squish now before I take it off completely. So I'll get my bit of solder. Generally you should check it in a few places. Make sure it's, hopefully it all comes out reasonably same size. I've got it over one side of the cylinder at the moment. I just turn it. You can feel it biting on the solder. Just squash it. See if you can see that. Camera doesn't really want to focus on it. The front is squashed now, so now you can measure that where it's flattened out. I'm getting, I'll check it a couple of times, I will. About at 0.85 I'm getting now. I'll chop that bit off. Now it was, before I took the gasket out, it was 1.16. About 0.83 or a bit more. bit of a dodgy reading that time. Do that one again. Again. About 0.85, 0.84. I'll call it 0.83. Let's write that on there. For future. And that's it. So later on, if I decide to do mods, I know roughly how much I can afford to take off the base gasket area if I decide to do that. So anyway, I'll shut the camera down again and I'll start preparing, cleaning up properly, getting ready to put the cylinder on, and I'll get back to you with that. Alright, see you soon. Okay folks, I'm back again. I've just been sorting it out before I could get this thing back together. I had a couple of issues. Because it's 52mm rather than the old 50, it looks like that, or it is, that OD there is slightly bigger. So what I've done, actually I found it probably should have fit normally, but you know, the casing wasn't that great. What I found was one side of it was sort of stepped in at the joint. The other side was, oh sorry, you can just see it there actually. I had to grind it out. If you can get this light over here. Maybe you can see that down on the right hand side down there. I had to grind that out. The left side was fine. I took about 1mm out of there. And I also put a bit of an extra lead in on the bottom of the cylinder on that location there, because the location on the new cylinder is about 1mm longer, and it didn't really have any lead in, and there's a step down in the casting there which was interfering as well. So I ground a bit of a lead in and ground out the casing, and also now the screws line up as well. Like it was a bit tight, I had to go a little bit extra. So it's all ready to go together now. I forgot to bring my mic home today, but I did roughly check the squisher already. It's around about 1mm, which is about 40 thou on the old language. I just checked with my verniers, which is not the greatest, but I was just going to run it if it was somewhere in that range anyway. So I'll put it together, see how it goes, and I'll check it another day properly, see what it actually is. But it looks like there's room for adjustment there. So anyway, I nearly screwed up. I nearly started putting it together without the boot on here for the inlet. I'll just put that on now, because you don't need the carby on, but you need to have the boot on when you're assembling it. And I nearly forgot. So round 2, put some of this stuff, 3-bond 1104 Neo Plus. It's a liquid gasket, rubber based, it's fuel resistant, and it's got about 150 degrees temperature range on it, so it shouldn't be an issue. I hope. Let's see how we go. Anyway, I'll shut the camera off for a little while. I'll get this thing assembled, and then I'll carry on with it. Right, I'm back folks. It's sort of assembled. I just wanted to quickly, before I put the covers on, to show you one other thing that I did. On the boot, there's a little hose clamp around there, which I don't know about all of them, but this one that was around the other way, so the screw head's coming from underneath. So if you assemble it, and if it's out of alignment, you can't adjust it. So I just flip that around. Just make sure it's right up near the cylinder, so you don't interfere with the plastics when you drop it in. And then I just sort of left it loose, and then I assembled it, got everything jiggled where I want it, and did it up. Other than that, it all went, aside from a couple of cylinder issues, it went together not too bad. Like I said, needed to grind out the casing and a bit of a lead in on the bottom of the cylinder. Wanted to just, oh, there's some other issues. I didn't over tighten the heads on it. I noticed it wasn't super tight when I pulled the original off, and you know, these things aren't top quality stuff. The threads inside in the casing, one in particular, there's like an air bubble in the casting, so there's not really a lot of thread in there. What I did notice, it's a bit hard to see it, but right down inside here on the original, which like I said hasn't got a lot of hours on it, you probably can't see it, it's a bit, there's my little torch. There's, right down the bottom there's sort of like pitting in the coating and stuff. It's not damaged from running or anything, but there's all like little pits down in there. Just like, not the best quality stuff, but you know what you expect. But I'll keep this one aside, it still works alright. You see how this thing runs, if it blows up or not. Like I said, I did check the squareness of the cylinder. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I did a dry run of the cylinder before when I was doing the squish, and found the cylinder's not sitting flat on the casing, so it's wobbling there's about a thou gap on the bottom, sorry, about 2 thou, about 500ths, which adds to a bit of chance of error. I don't know if it's going to be a problem or not, but I won't be fixing that. We'll just see how it runs. Anyway, so that's what I got. That was a Pharmatech cylinder, and I got the piston wasn't a kit. I bought the piston separate. That was from, I think, the Carby Doctor. It's an Australian seller, but it's obviously still overseas stuff, imported stuff, but it seems to fit all right. Anyway, the proof will be in the running. That's it, I think. I've just got to put the covers on and let that sealant stuff run. In case if anyone's interested in what I used, again, it's I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I hope so. It's a 3-bond 1104 Neo Plus. Other than that, I hope this helps someone out, and I'll put it together. I'll give it a test one day to see how it compares, because I bought this one a couple of years back now. It's a few years old actually, but not long after I bought it, I seen them advertised before I even knew they weren't even 92cc. This is way back. I seen them on a crazy cheap price, so I bought another one as a spare. So I've got another one of these, and I'm going to do some comparisons. I've only just done a test cut with it a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't even used it. It's been sitting around in the garage for probably about 2 years or something now. So I'll do it. I'll keep one stock and I'll do some comparisons with this one. I've got some really big, hard timber down the back. One day I'll get a chance to do a cut in it and show you what the difference is. Right folks, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.